Back, students, to module 4. And in this module, we're finally getting down to some business. We're going to start, what we're going to do is we're going to deploy our database in Okteto under our web application. And then we're going to connect to that web application, that database, PostgreSQL database, from our computer. Why is that important? Because because remember, we are building dashboards, and dashboards basically report and visualize data, right? We need a way to load up that data, and having access to that database from our computer is critical to doing that. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to open up our Okteto-stack file, configuration file. Remember the .yaml or .yml. These are extensions for YAML files that are basically configuration files, right? And to add this information, to basically add this database to our application, we have to open up our GitHub desktop, GitHub desktop that we downloaded from before, and that's because we're updating our Okteto stack file. And so GitHub desktop needs to take our new updated file, upload it, and then from there we can redeploy our project, commit our changes, and then redeploy our project, and then a database will be added. It's actually very simple. Once we get the Okteto stack configuration file correct, it's automatic on Okteto's end. Now on our left is our original file, Okteto stack file. Remember, all these lines did was set up a fast API application sitting on the port 8080 in Okteto, right? That's basically what it did. And by the way, this fast API, right, this part right here, that fast API, that's why we have the fast API dash before our username when we deployed the project and we had our URL. Now, Okteto actually gives us, to their credit, gives us a lot of database options. I'll show you a little later all the database options they give you. Several different databases. We're going to use PostgreSQL because it's a very popular open source database. It's very powerful. I believe I read somewhere that it's the 4th most popular database. So I mean that's very impressive considering you're in a space with it's SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, I guess Sybase, MySQL. So to be like 4th popular or 5th, even 5th popular, that's saying something. It's very advanced. It has a lot of cool features from store procedures to triggers. So a lot of companies use it, and we're going to use it as well. Now, the information that we need to add is, if you see, this was our original file. Up until line 8 was our original file. From 9 onwards is all the new stuff we have added. Now, I added this file, this Okteto-stack YAML file. It's on Canvas if you want to take it directly, or you can update it yourself. But the key points here are that under services, we had just one service called Fast API. We are now going to have 2 services under services, Fast API and PostgreSQL. If you notice, they're just tabbed in by 1. So we'll have 2 of them, okay? There's 2 services now. Within the Fast API, we added an additional parameter called environment, right? And in this environment, we basically stated 2 things. First, where our database is going to be hosted in Okteto, right? And secret equals def. I have no idea what that is, right? I have no idea what that's doing. I'm pretty sure I can find out, but it's not really pertinent to what we have to do. What's important is line 10, setting up the database host, setting up that line item. That line item basically is, if you want to think about it, is like the URL of the database in Okteto, right? And these terms actually, I'll come back to this line in a second, what these things basically mean. Let us first go, it's actually better to go backwards and then explain this line. So if I go to the PostgreSQL services, and by the way, as we add more services, our Okteto-stack file keeps expanding, right? This is basically the way it works. So you want to add this PostgreSQL database, and it'll be under our Fast API, the way we're designing it. All right. This image, Bitnami, PostgreSQL, we have to put that in there. It's basically saying, hey, you want to design this application somewhere in the Kubernetes system for Fast API. This ports part, 5432. If you look at the ports part for Fast API, it's 880. Here's 5432. These are the port numbers that Okteto decides for each particular application. Web applications tend to be on 8080, and each database in Okteto is given a different port number. So we can have several different databases going. We don't need to just stick with one. We can have several different databases that we're working with. In this case, PostgreSQL, that is given the port 5432 to work on Okteto. So that's pretty much given. Now here's where we can have a little bit of fun. Environment parameter. Under environment, we have to define what our username is to get into the database, what our password is to get to the database, and which the actual database name. So those are the three things we're defining. Yes, we're using Postgres database, yes. But we have to configure the database. We have to say, okay, we're using this database. To access this database, this is the username, this is the password, and this is going to be the name of the database. So here I just used very simple names, PG for Postgres, Postgres user for Postgres user, Postgres password for password, PGDB for Postgres database, right? Obviously, I would be more discerning. I'm more discerning for my actual web applications, for my actual portfolio companies, right? Portfolio my actual digital assets. But anyway, these are simple passwords. And now we can go back to the DB host and see how this all plays out. So the DB host is basically, we first state the database, right? And then we do : / Postgres database //. The first parameter, if you want to call it parameter that goes there is the username, : and then the password, : password. So this is where it comes from. We define this. If you make up your own username, your own password, even your own database name, right? You just have to update your DB_host line item, the URL, if you will. It has to be consistent. So here it's the username : password at, again, Postgres : the port / and then the name of our database, which we decided to name PGDB. All right. So that's what's happening in that Canvas file, and here you see it in all its glory. And again, I have this posted in Canvas for you guys. All right, so when this is updated, all right, let me just do this, and I'll do that. All right. Oh, actually, it doesn't say anything because I didn't save it. If you're forced to save something, you see a little blue dot come up there, and if I go like this, it's unsaved pretty much. But what happens is, if you come here now to, in my case, because I already made the changes and all that stuff. If you come here, you'll see that down here, this is our GitHub desktop, guys. I have it open from before. If you don't have it open it. And when you open it, or if it is open, you'll notice commit to main is not grayed out. This is kind of light blue, it'll be dark blue. Plus the changes that we made to Okteto -stack. Our GitHub desktop will say, hey, you made these changes. Do you want to commit it to your main project down here? Yes, we do. We click on it, and it's going to do its thing to commit it, and it's going to say, push it through. Up here, you'll see a push it through thing. We'll say, yeah, push it through, and it's going to send it to GitHub, right? And what it's going to send to GitHub basically is it's going to send this. Basically, it's going to send this updated file. It's going to basically send this updated file to GitHub, all right? And once it's sent up to GitHub, then we go to our Okteto page. All right, I go to my Okteto page. Let me show you guys here. All right, come to your Okteto page. Now, I already have a lot of stuff going on because I'm ahead of you guys. But come here to website, and you simply click once you have that updated file, you click redeploy. You come here, and again, it'll show you your repository. I just have one repository. I have one main branch. I keep everything very simple, and I redeploy. And it'll start redeploying. And you'll see this progressing happen and all this other stuff. Now, what you guys will see on your end is this stuff will start updating, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, these two things will will start popping up: PostgreSQL and data will start coming out. All right, it's progressing, it's updating, it's progressing. It's taking a while for me for some reason. All right, and here we go. There you go. It's pulling it, and things are happening. All right. And it's going to keep running and running and see it's progressing. And hopefully what you'll see is by the time you're done, you're going to have a Postgres right here under your website application. You're going to have your fast API. You're going to have your PostgreSQL. And you're going to have this something called data, your volume. All right? Running. It's still running for me both. Oh, now it's running. So this is up and running now with my URL, right? And I come here. This is up and running. So now, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? It's that simple. Okteto has made it that simple. We now have our database. That's all it took. All we had to do was make sure we configured our stack file correctly. And bam, our database is now up and it's running under our web application. We're ready to rock. Ready to rock. Now, the next step, right, again, you'll see this. It's all deployed and it's ready for us to use. Now, the next step, guys, is, jumped ahead, is hopefully you guys installed the kubectl command. I sent out the link for you guys under Canvas, whether you're Mac or Windows, to attempt to install kubectl, right? Both for Mac and Windows. Also, hopefully you guys got it working because a lot of you guys couldn't get it properly installed. So now I went straight to Kubernetes and got the kubectl command for you guys to install it. So what you want to do is, if you got it installed properly, you can actually use those commands. Open a new terminal, go to your, again, right here, packages, terminal, open a new terminal, and I'm going to type in the command kubectl port-forwarding. What's happening here? What am I writing? Well, what I'm writing is, all right, from before, because of the fact that we are connected to Okteto, what I'm saying is, even without connecting to Okteto or doing anything, I'm going to straight up say, hey, I'm going to do port forwarding, or port forward, not forwarding, forward, right? And basically, I want to forward what? I want to forward the service from Okteto called PostgreSQL, all right? Remember, PostgreSQL is under services, so the service PostgreSQL, which again is a database, I want to forward from Okteto to my port on my computer. What am I doing? I'm basically setting up the connection from my computer to Okteto's, my computer's port 5432 to my Okteto's account's port 5432, which is where the PostgreSQL database is there. I press enter. These two forwarding lines pop up, right? And they're basically saying, hey, we are now forwarding all the requests and responses from the Okteto database to your local machine. Why is that important? Because now I can use the database on my machine. I have now full access to the database from my machine. All right. Now, how am I going to use it? Well, like we always like doing in class, we like using a nice GUI. Now, there's several different GUIs you can use for PostgreSQL. If you look online, there's ones that are free. There's ones you can buy. There's a nifty little one called DBeaver. Literally, I put the URL right here, https://dbeaver.io. Some people say, look, it's kind of slow, but for our purposes, it'll work, right? Because when you're dealing with massive amount of data, it's kind of slow. You might want to buy something, but for our purposes, it's fine, right? It's fine. So this is a nice little GUI. Log in right here, and you come to this page. Let me zoom in a little bit, right? And basically, you're going to come here to download. Click on downloads, and from here, there's got two editions: Enterprise Edition, Community Edition. Obviously, the Community Edition is free. That's the one we want. It's fine. It'll work fine for us. Don't worry. So I come here, and there's a Windows one. For my Windows, guys, click on the Windows 64-bit installer. All right. For my Mac people, here's your Mac OS X DMG. And Linux, I know there's somebody's on Linux. So you should be, my Linux student, my one Linux student, you should be good to go as well, right? So they have the packages. Go ahead, click on it, download it, right? I believe for Mac, again, in installer, it'll do it executable automatically. For Macs, an image thing will pop up where it's going to ask you to slide it into applications, right? And like a little image like this, we're going to slide into applications. Go ahead and slide into applications. And once you're done with that, right? Once you're done with that, we can open it up. Now, when you open it up, right? I don't think you'll see that. Let me open it up on my side. So I'm going to come here. There's a little DBeaver. I'm going to open it up. All right, the first time you open it up, see, I didn't get it when I opened it up. But here's my DBeaver. The first time you open it up, you're going to get this pop-up. Do you want to create a sample database? Can you be using examples to explore basic DB features? You are going to click no. We don't need to do that. All right, we don't need to do that. Why do we don't need to do that? Because we're going to connect to our Okteto database, guys. All right, and when you do that, when you click no, this connect to a database thing pops up. And notice out of the just out of the box, how many databases they ask you to, they give you an option to connect to. DuckDB, I never even heard of that. DB2, yes. SQLite, obviously. Apache Drill, never heard of that. Hive, I have heard of. Apache Ignite, Apache Phoenix. I haven't heard of Phoenix. That's Microsoft SQL Server. You got Oracle, MySQL. And there's PostgreSQL and the big elephant, right? The big elephant. Click on that. And when you click on that, it's going to come over here, right, and say, hey, should I download the driver settings? Yeah, click on it and download driver settings. So what's going to happen now for both the Macs and the Windows, it's going to start downloading some files, right, on your machines, if you don't have those default machines. And most likely you probably don't have those machines. These are the software. Driver settings are basically the software that on your computer that allows you to connect to another database. In this case, you need the drivers for PostgreSQL to connect to it. All right, and once that is done, all right, once that download is done, this will pop up. And this is basically asking you to connect to a, let's see, I don't have that right here. All right, this is basically asking you to connect to which database you want to connect to. This is very important. This goes back now to this file, specifically to the port and our username, password, and database. So when we come here, leave localhost as is, right? Localhost basically means our machine. Port, I think by default, the port will be 5432 because we selected PostgreSQL. If not, just put that 4532, but I'm pretty sure that's default. Database, here, first thing, our database name is PGDB. Username, our name, the name, again, the username I chose PGUSER. Whatever username you guys chose, use that. Password, you don't see it, right? But it's PGPASS, PGPSS. Put those important 3 items in, click finish, and then you guys should see this, your window right here basically. Let me see if I can zoom in on you. View. I don't think I have access to the fonts here. Editor. I'll have to look at this later, how I can zoom in on this. But anyway, you have this, right? You see it right here, right? How do we get that? See this right here? PG. That's our data. You click on the arrow, there's PGDB. That's the database we define. You click on that arrow, right? And here's our database. Don't go too crazy about all this stuff. Schemas is what we care about, the first thing, but this gets pretty complicated. This gets pretty complex. I don't know if any of you guys are DB administrators, DB admins, but you guys know this stuff can get really complex. And you have all this at your fingertip when you're working with PostgreSQL. That's the beauty of it. But here it is. We are now connected to our database in Okteto. We are in the cloud. And now we can start doing some serious data stuff. Just to play with it and get a little comfortable, right? What we want to do is we want to, let's create now a table. All right, let's create a table. We're going to manually create a table for now. Obviously, there's different ways we can create a table. Now that we have access to DBeaver, come here, scroll up. All right. Now that we have access to DBeaver, it gives us a lot more. See, using a GUI like this, we have a lot more flexibility in how we create tables and load up data in tables, and that's the benefit. And we can do all this on our local machine while affecting the data out in Okteto, in our Fast API application, in our Python application. Right. So first things first, we need to create a table. How do we create a table? Come down here, schemas. Click on schemas. Under schemas, you'll see something called public. You click on public, and now you're going to see a bunch of things: tables, views, materialized views, index functions, etc., etc. Now, you guys all should have took BDM. You guys should all pretty much understand all this stuff, including the SQL we're about to do, right? So you guys should all understand this stuff. If I click on tables right here, you guys will have nothing there. In fact, if you click on tables right here, this is what you guys will see. Right? I obviously have a bunch of stuff here because I've been messing around with this, right? I've been messing around with this, and my tables already exist in Okteto. You guys are going to create a table. So I'm not going to create the same table. I'll use this right here, my slides, right? So what you want to do is first go here and just right-click tables. And when you right-click tables, the create new table thing pops up. Click on that, and now you get this form over here, right? Just like you do here in the slides. Here in the form, the first thing you can do is choose a new name. Now, choose whatever name you want, right? This is your first table, so do test underscore table. But for our project, we can choose any name we pretty much want, right? And so I will try doing test table again. All right, I'll do test table again. Even though it exists there, I'll get an error if I try doing this. But anyway. And so this is our table name. Now, to add columns, this is kind of strange. It's hard to see. But you basically have to go down here. See down here? There's a little button down here. It's actually not intuitive, but if you come down here, highlight it right here, right next to the garbage part, it says create column. So if you just click on that, this little window pops up. For the test table, I told you guys, make the first column name. Now, by default, the data type it gives you is varchar. Varchar is an alphanumeric column or a text column. And when you choose varchars, it's always good to choose a length. So here I'm going to choose 20. And this is basically going to, let's see if I can do this without causing an error. All right, cool. All right, so yeah, I just won't commit to change this because it's going to cause a problem. So what happens is, bam, you'll see all of a sudden out of nowhere, this column name popped up, name, data type varchar, and length 20. So basically, I can have an alphanumeric up to 20 characters under this name column. You guys click on that again, add another one. We'll add age. But this time, I want age to be a number. So right here where it says varchar, right? If you go to data type and just click on it, this arrow pops up. See that arrow right there? And then you click down and scroll up, and you have all these different data types you can mess around with. We're going to keep it simple. Just keep it integer right there. Right? And then click OK. Bam. We got our next column. And finally, our third column, we will call it amount. And again, I'm going to click on this, and I want to make this, typically amounts, like anything with dollar related, you make it a double, or something called a double. That lets you be precise which lets you decide how big you want the dollar amount to be and how big you want the decimal places to be. Here they actually have a data type. Postgre has a data type called money. So I'll choose that. Boom, done. And now, guys, you're just going to click on save, and I'll show you guys this here for my slide. When you click on save, this thing will pop up. Right, and this is basically the SQL definition of creating that table, which you guys already know because you guys all took BDM and you guys are experts at BDM. Right, so you click on this, and this is, I don't know if you can see it says persist. Click on persist. All right. Well, first what you can do is you can click on save right here. So if you go down right here and click on save, it actually pops up. See, I get an error. I get an error because they're like, hey, what are you doing? You already got this database, right? But when you guys click on save down here, this will pop up. And it's going to ask you to click on persist. Click on persist. And all of a sudden, this is going to pop up right there for your test table. I'm going to close this X out. Do you want to save these changes? No. Right? And so that's gone. And so now here you see my temp table right there. Right? And you guys have a temp underscore table too in all its glory. Now, what we want to do is, we just want to have a little fun. Let's go ahead and store some stuff in that test table. Right? And I think if you double click it, it'll give you the definition. It'll give you the columns, you got all that. Right, so what we want to do is we want to select, I wonder if I can double click it and see view table. There you go. If you double click it, view table, again, it gives you the table definition. View columns, browse from here. And you'll notice there's export data, import data. We'll use these features a little bit later. Right, it comes in very handy. Let me do browse from here. And it doesn't really let me do anything. All right, so let me close that up. All right, so this is what we want to do, guys. We want to do some insert commands into this table. All right, so you guys have, again, you guys know insert commands because you guys have all taken BDM. You guys all did very well in it. Insert command is how you load up data into a table. So I will do insert into test underscore table. Values. I want to put in our Batman. What did I have? I have Batman age 30. And the amount is, what did I put? Like, it's much more richer than that. I put 1 million. And then you have to put a colon. Don't forget to put the, I'm sorry, don't forget to put a semicolon after it, right? Semicolon. And now I'm going to just copy this and do another one. I'm going to do Superman. I'll make him a year younger. And I'll give him like $1,000. The reporter. What money does this guy make, huh? And then finally, Wonder Woman. I'm going to make her older. She's actually much older, 300. And I'll give her, she's actually very wealthy because she's, well, they don't really have money at the Mexico area, but, you know, they have stuff. Highlight all the commands you want to run. It's real simple, guys. Just do control return or control enter, and it'll run all those lines. And down here, it literally says, it tells you updated 3 rows and tells you the queries it ran. Now, I have data in my database. I have data in my table. I have data in my database too. Let's see if we can view table. Oh, still doesn't let you do it. All right. There is a way we can check out the data, but we'll worry about that later. Now I want to go ahead and do my SQL command. My basic SQL command to check out all the data. Select all, remember star for all, from test table. Actually, I think for the select you don't need a code. So I highlight this, do control enter. Bam. You guys see this down here? I don't think I can zoom in, but can you guys see this? Boom. It gives you back your data right there. Right? And so we're good to go. So this is now, data is now in Okteto, in our database, in our Fast API application. It's all right, let's see, right here. It's all right here. All this stuff is happening right here. Okay? So from here, we can end module 4, right? And now the last thing we want to do is, well, we want to close out our database connection. I want to show you guys how we close out the database. So when you're done with the database, you can just pretty much close this out. Right, I'm going to exit out. I don't want to save anything. If you want to save your SQL script, you can. Right, and then I will come here, and I will simply, where I had this connection, right, to Okteto, I simply, again, guys, just like before, Control C, just like our web server, and we broke our connection. And now we're done. We're not connected to Okteto anymore. So this is how you connect your data. You open up your database and you connect it to your web application. We now have a web application on Okteto. We now have a connection to Okteto to do development, and we now have a connection to deploy our application. And now we have a database in our production as well, our web-based, our production data, our production environment. So now we need to, the next step in our next module is basically discussing, before we even get to the HTML and the CSS stuff and any of that stuff, we need to talk about our data. We need to start talking about our data and start constructing our database, loading up our data, and start figuring out how we want this data to look and design. I mean, what kind of analysis we want to do. So now we're going to get a little more, probably slightly more technical. I'm not going to get too technical in terms of the data analysis part. I mean, we want to still keep it fun, but we want to talk about, like, basically we want to talk about the data we're going to load up. And then from there we can start talking about what possible reports we want to do, et cetera, et cetera. All right, guys? So this ends module 4. In the next module, we're going to start talking about our actual data and setting it up in our Okteto database. All right, guys? All right, guys. Have a good day, and I'll see you guys in class or the next module. Bye-bye.